KLP Jonesboro, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council. It's now time for Community Conversations, a program focusing on the people working to make the Jonesboro community a better place, while offering viewpoints from all sides of the issues. The views expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of KLEK 102.5 FM, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council, or our underwriters or sponsors.
Good morning to all of you out there. You are tuned into Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. I'm your host for today, Quabila Harden. Mr. Cato Wonder is out handling station business as always. And I just want to say a special hello to my guest, Dr. Tim Oliver from Arkansas State University. Hello, Mr. Tim.
Good morning. How are you?
He is the director of bands at A-State. Now, if you've been to any game, especially football game, you know what a vital role the band plays in keeping the crowd hype and keeping the momentum going. So thank you, Mr. Tim, for all the hard work that you do to keep the band on point. So
well, thank you.
We don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. So first of all, we want to hear more about Mr. Tim. Where are you from? How did you get here? How did you get into being the director of bands?
Well, thank you for having me on this morning. It's a real pleasure to be here with you. I'm originally from Centralia, Missouri, which is a small farming community right outside of Columbia. And Centralia is about the size of Harrisburg, Arkansas. And I started being a member of the band when I was in 5th grade.
Okay.
And for quite a while, it was just, I really enjoyed it. It was it was one of my main activities in school. And I didn't really give a whole lot of serious thought to when I graduated high school that I would actually be a band director. And like a lot of college students or going to be college students, I really wasn't totally sure what I wanted to major in. And so at the time, computer science seemed like an appropriate major.
Computer science.
And this is back, in the late 80s when there's Apple IIes and green screen computers and that sort of thing. And I decided, okay, let's give computer science a try. And I remember being in a class, it was a simple programming class, Computer Science 1 at Truman State University in Kirksville, Missouri, which is where I went to school. And I remember being in this computer lab on the second floor of what was called Violet Hall. And there was a large number of computers and everybody was doing their homework theoretically, because this is before really the internet and other sorts of social media. And I had to generate a program by which randomly generated integers would appear. If they were even integers, they'd appear on the left side of the screen. If they were odd integers, they'd appear on the right side of the screen. And I struggled with this computer programming problem for hours. And some guy walked by very casually and just kind of looked over my shoulder. He said, if you'd put a semicolon right there and not a comma, your problem would be fixed.
Oh my goodness.
And sure enough, I did that, and everything was fixed. And I said, okay, I'm done. I can't imagine spending the next, 3 or 4 decades doing this. And so I was already in the college marching band and participating in some of the collegiate music activities. And so the next day, it was kind of scary because I didn't tell my parents. The next day I went down and went to the academic advisor's office, and I changed my major and became a music education major and have never looked back. So once I graduated, I decided to go on into graduate school for my master's degree. And then I started teaching in Missouri. I was a high school and junior high band director in a very small town called Maysville, Missouri. It's an hour literally straight north of Kansas City.
Okay.
And it has about 1,100 people in it. And I was there for a couple of years and then had the opportunity to move to Florida, start my doctorate at Florida State University. And I was also teaching part-time at a local school there, junior high director. 3 years later, I finished my doctorate and had the really fantastic opportunity to be the marching band director at the University of Kansas for 3 years. Moved to Philadelphia, and I was the associate director of bands and director of athletic bands at Temple University for 4 years, and then had the opportunity to come here to Arkansas State and be the director of bands and the coordinator of wind and percussion studies. And this is my 10th year here at Arkansas State, and we're just really delighted to be here at A-State and be a member of this really outstanding community.
Wow, you have done some traveling.
Well, that's one thing I always tell folks is that if you're going to, I get asked frequently, what's one of the differences between being a high school band director and a college band director? And one of the differences is if you're going to be a college band director, at least initially, you have to be willing to go anywhere from the Pacific Ocean to the Atlantic Ocean.
Okay.
Because it's just, you've got to be willing to do that and have a nationwide approach to where jobs are. That's one huge difference.
All right, you're tuned in to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM, and my special guest is Dr. Tim Oliver, the Director of Bands at Arkansas State University. If you have any questions or comments, please give us a call, 870-277-1080. Again, the number is 870-277-1080. You can also catch us live on Facebook and YouTube, so you can leave your comments and questions there, and I'll be happy to try to get them in on the show. Okay, Dr. Tim, so let's transition into, I know I asked you a lot of questions off the air, so I'm sorry if it's going to be kind of all over the place.
That's not a problem.
We did talk about the band in general. There are several types of bands within the band department, I guess you say. You know, some people see the one band, which is, I guess, the marching band.
Right.
And there's so much more to it than that. So can you break it down for us,
Sure,
please?
I'd be happy to. In the A-State Band program, we have 3 what we call concert bands. We have 3 athletic bands, and we also have 2 jazz bands.
Okay.
And that doesn't count all the smaller ensembles that are within the Department of Music, such as the trombone choir and the tuba euphonium ensemble and the trumpet ensemble, etc. So within the large ensembles, the concert bands, we have our wind ensemble, our symphonic winds, and our concert band. And each of those groups has a very specific mission and a very specific purpose. For example, our wind ensemble is a group that's almost all music majors in that group. And one of the missions of that ensemble is to not only play what we would consider to be the standard wind band repertoire, but also to commission new music and to commission composers to write music for wind bands. And since I've been at A-State, we've commissioned nearly 30 composers to write new pieces for the wind band area. So it's, and sometimes we do that by ourselves, and sometimes we do that in a consortium, which may involve 10, 30, 50 sometimes, different colleges and universities. So that's really central to our mission, to be able to play and promote the standard repertoire as well as the new and emerging repertoire. On the other hand, we also have our Symphonic Winds, which is a group that has about 1/2 music majors, 1/2 non-music majors. And then our concert band has more non-music majors than music majors. And that's a spring-only group that's essentially an ensemble for students that just enjoy playing and want to continue playing. And we find that to be a really good outlet for a lot of our students. You know, regarding the athletic bands, the Sound of the Natural State Marching Band, that's our largest and most visible ensemble. And I tell folks that one game at Centennial Bank Stadium, there will be 30,000 people that will see the Sound of the Natural State Marching Band. The Fowler Center only holds 990 people.
Oh, wow.
So we would have to have 30 concerts in the Fowler Center to equal, the amount of exposure we can get with one football game.
Oh, my goodness.
And so it is, a lot of people, when they think of the band program, they think of the marching band first, which makes sense because that's the largest and has the most exposure. There are roughly 225 people in the marching band, and that is the largest student group on campus as far as for our band program. It's also, I think, a really unique group in the sense that it is one of the few and maybe the only group on campus that's a curricular ensemble, a co-curricular ensemble, and an extracurricular ensemble, meaning that music majors take that class, marching band's a class, they take it for credit.
Oh, my goodness.
Non-music majors take it as an elective or to satisfy, scholarship or other requirements. And frankly, we have extracurricular activities that are outside of what would be considered the normal semester. For example, we're preparing to go to the Procure Bowl in Orlando, which is
Okay.
going to happen in about a week and a half, which the semester will end. So that's outside of the
Okay.
scope of the semester. So it's a really unique class. But as I said off air, one of the misconceptions about the marching band is that you have to be a music major to be in the marching band, and that's just not true. For example, 62% of the students that are in the marching band are not music majors.
Wow.
And they range, I like to say they run the gamut from A to Z, because we have accounting majors in that band all the way to zoology majors.
Oh my
And just about every major on campus is represented. Psychology, engineering, nursing, education. I mean, pretty much anything you can think of. We have at least one person in the band that is of that major. We also have our basketball band, which spans both semesters. It's the Howlers basketball band. That group starts obviously near the end of the fall semester when basketball season starts. That's again another one of those ensembles that operates outside of the normal semester, because basketball games occur during break between semesters, and we obviously still have a band there. And there's the potential for postseason regarding the Sun Belt Conference basketball tournament, and also if the team were to make the NCAA or NIT tournaments. So our basketball band, we have that, and we also have a fairly recent group. It's called our volleyball band, and we started that group about 3 years ago. There was a need for that, and we were happy to oblige our athletic department on that. And as you know, our volleyball team is very successful at A-State, and so we're very happy to support that. And we also feel strongly in the sense that for athletic bands, we have two bands, if you will, that support men's sports, and two bands that support women's sports. So we feel that's important.
That is wonderful. You're tuned into Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM, and we're speaking with Dr. Tim Oliver of the Arkansas State University, and he is the director of the bands, and he is giving us a breakdown of how the bands work. And like, you were totally educating me this morning, because I had no clue that it was so intricate of a program just surrounding the bands.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I want to backtrack just a little bit.
Okay.
And if I don't want to go through every single instrument, but you talked about the wind, and since the wind section has two different types of bands, the ensemble and the symphonic, can you give us some of the wind instruments, for those who may not
Sure.
know?
Well, as far as the instrumentation of the wind ensemble, symphonic winds, and frankly the marching band for that matter, it's going to be very similar. Those groups are all going to have flutes, clarinets, various types of saxophones, trumpets, trombones, tubas. A marching band is not going to have oboes and bassoons like a typical concert band would. A concert band is typically going to have what we call French horns, whereas the marching band equivalent of that is called a mellophone. And
is the French horn the little
yes, exactly. It's the one that looks like it's been all circularized and it's all squished together in some ways. And euphoniums, that's essentially a small tuba, if you want to think of it that way.
Okay.
That would be a concert band instrument. The equivalent of that is a baritone that we use, a marching bell front baritone that we use with the athletic bands. The percussion is pretty different in the sense that there's still snare drums, bass drums, cymbals, that type of thing. But in a marching band situation, you'll see them, it's much more specialized. They have different sorts of heads on the drums, different sticks. The instruments themselves are a little bit larger. They're meant in a marching band situation to project and carry a lot of sound, whereas in a concert band situation, they're meant to complement the sound and not really provide a large leadership type of role. One major difference with the athletic bands is that we have a color guard. And we have also had majorettes, and obviously we don't have those for a concert band situation.
That is really wonderful. Now, for someone to become part of the color guard or the majorettes, how do they go about? Do they still come through you for that?
What they can do is they can contact either myself or we actually have two other members of our band faculty, Dr. Sarah Lavovitz, who's our Associate Director of Bands and Coordinator of Instrumental Music Education, and Dr. Polly Middleton, who is our Director of Athletic Bands. And she's actually the person who on a day-to-day basis directs the sound of the Natural State and the Howlers basketball band. And so if someone is interested in pursuing a spot in our color guard or becoming a majorette, they can certainly contact me, or they can contact Dr. Middleton.
Wow. Now, there's a movie out. It's been out a long time ago. It was called Drumline.
Right.
There was so much focus on the drum and the percussion sound when it comes to band. Is the drum line, do they get kind of competitive either with each other or with other schools?
Well, I can say this because I used to be in the drum line.
Okay.
That was I say was because I unfortunately haven't been able to play the way I used to play.
Oh.
But I was a member of the drum line, and it's a little different. Not in a bad way. It's just a little different. They have kind of their own culture, so they kind of have their own way of doing things, and it's really a group within a group.
Okay.
Sometimes, and now sometimes that gets to be not a good thing.
Okay.
Because I remember in college, I had to have our band director bring us back to reality a couple times and say, y'all need to come back in and join us with the rest of what's going on. But I won't say it's competitive. I think it's a type of group that has a lot of pride in the sense that we do things. The responsibilities of drumline, I think, are maybe a little more than in some of the other wind areas. For example, like when you hear cadences, you hear the band taking the field, drumline is playing. Or when you hear a marching band, any marching band in a parade, they're playing cadence and they're getting the band in motion. And so during the games, a lot of times you'll hear the drumline providing sounds between downs in a football game. So there's just a little bit more playing responsibility that they have sometimes.
Okay, for someone like me who's not a music enthusiast, well, I don't know anything.
You're an enthusiast, I can tell.
I'm an enthusiast, but I'm not, I don't know enough.
Okay.
Can you break down what cadence means?
It's essentially the percussion sounds that encourage the band to stay in step and march from place to place.
Okay.
It actually goes back to many marching band traditions that you see today actually have their roots in the military.
Oh.
And there were many like for example in the Continental Army during the Revolutionary War, it was very common. In fact, it was congressionally mandated by the Continental Congress that there would be fifes and drums that would be stationed with units of the Continental Army. And the drums, their function was really pretty simple. It was to encourage men to march from place to place. And it was also for signaling purposes as well. But it was more of a utilitarian function. Now, as we are into the 21st century, that still exists, but if a drummer, if you will, from the 18th century, 19th century were to look at what we're doing today, they would be blown away. It would be almost unrecognizable.
Oh, wow. You're tuned into Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM, and I am speaking with Dr. Tim Oliver of the Arkansas State University Bands Department. He is the Director of Bands, and I am truly enjoying our conversation thus far. I have so many questions going on in my head. Another question I want to bring up, we have about 2 minutes left in this segment. I don't want to run out of time, but I asked you off air, getting that first chair. I remember when I was in junior high and I attempted to play the flutes. And there was a competition, I guess you say, for first chair. Like that was like major.
Right.
And so I want to know, does it still reign? Is it still the same today?
Well, let me answer it by saying this. Every band director and every group is a little bit different on how they handle that. Okay. But it is pretty common that, and it's usually for assessment purposes, they're trying to figure out whether students are progressing as far as learning material, learning their scales, techniques, that sort of thing. And for some students, it's a very motivating factor to be able to sit in a certain chair, because usually when you're in the first chair, it's an opportunity to, when they arise, to play solos and things like that. And oftentimes it's a leadership type of position as well.
Wow. So does I don't want to call it a competition, what would you call the test or the challenge to get in that higher position? Does it get, or can it get out of hand just among the students?
Well, I'm not sure it can get out of hand. I think it's up to the responsibility of the band director
Okay.
to lay out very clear expectations regarding this is the material that you're going to be assessed over. And what often happens is there's an initial chair placement and where everyone is given the same material, and then from that, students are essentially rank ordered into various chairs, so you can determine the first chair. And then there will be some folks that are like a second or third chair, and they'll want to have what they call a challenge frequently. And they'll challenge to be that first chair, and they'll give them certain materials and they'll listen to it. Now, all that said, we really don't have that at the college level. That's typically a junior high school thing. At the collegiate level, we don't have that.
Alrighty, so we're going to get ready to take a quick break. I thank you all for tuning in, and please do not go away. We'll be right back with more Mr. Tim Oliver from Arkansas State University, the Director of Bands. Again, if you have any questions or comments, please give us a call, 870-277-1080, or leave a message on Facebook or YouTube. Please do not go away.
You're listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. We'll be right back.
Moms, do you find it challenging to raise your son? I'm Mark Merrill with today's Family Minute. We all know that boys are very different from girls. Generally speaking, boys are rougher, louder, and less attentive. So, how can you raise your boy to be a responsible man? Here are 7 principles for raising sons well. First, channel their energy. Rather than trying to get rid of your son's energy, channel it into something productive like sports, arts, or other activities with friends. Second, protect their eyes and ears. As a mom, it's important to protect your son from harmful things like media violence, graphic sexual images, and inappropriate music. Remember, your family first.
For more resources on today's topic, go to markmerrill.com.
Family Minute is made possible by the Kappa Nu Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, a nonprofit organization committed to service to all mankind. Kappa Nu Omega Alpha Kappa Alpha on Facebook.
Blues live for 5 at Ledges 1025. Only $5 admission. Saturday, December 17th, 8 o'clock p.m. Featuring from Dallas, Texas, Lerone Powers.
What's the name of that thing? Could only last night.
Lerone Powers.
Into the mother, but don't get caught. You're gonna have to pay the cost.
Performing all of his hits.
Ain't nothing but a party. Jumping like a hole in the wall.
Lerone Powers. Don't miss it. Blues live for 5 at Ledges 1025. Saturday, December 17th, 8 o'clock p.m. Only $5 admission. This event is a KLEK fundraiser.
Do you like the music you hear on KLEK 102.5 FM? Do you like the educational programming that we provide? Do you like the service we provide to the community? Do you like having a station to finally call your own that represents you? If so, please stop by or call any of our underwriters or sponsors that you hear on KLEK and tell them thank you for their support. The support of our underwriters and sponsors is vital for us to stay on the air. So be sure to let them know that you thank them for their support.
And now back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM.
All right, welcome back to Community Conversations with my special guest, Dr. Tim Oliver of Arkansas State University, where he is the Director of Bands. I hope that you have enjoyed the first part of our show. We're going to get back into some more discussion, picking up a little bit where we left off. I wanted to say thank you to Mr. Dwayne Harden for watching us live on Facebook. Good morning to you, and thank you for liking our Christmas tree. A lot of hard work went into decorating it. So, okay. So now I want to talk about the history of the Arkansas State Band. I'm not sure. I'm not going to say that. When the college first started, was the band a part of the initial setup, and then?
Well, and when the university started in 1909, There were some suggestions of, informal student groups, and there's a few yearbook photos of just people like playing a guitar on the quad or something like that. But where we recognize the first, the beginning of the A-State Band program was in 1929.
Oh, wow.
And that was a person who, by the name of Guy French, is recognized as the first band director at A-State. And at the time, which is very common across the country at that point, Mr. French was a student at A-State, and he eventually became a faculty member and was the leader of the A-State Band program for 9 years.
Oh, wow.
And then when he finished, that was World War II was beginning at that point. And as was common in those days, there was also the beginning of an ROTC, not just the unit on campus, but also an ROTC band. And the two bands merged essentially at the beginning of World War II. So there was a series of directors leading up until 1941 where they were essentially ROTC officers. They weren't necessarily band directors. They may have had some musical training, but they really weren't band directors as we would know them today. And then at the height of World War II, the ROTC program and the band program, as well as the athletic program, were suspended. And so there was a period of time where there was no formal band activity at A-State. At the conclusion of World War II, 1946 is when this started again. That's when bands reemerged at A-State, and we've had continuously operating bands at A-State since 1946. And again, there was a couple of directors that led to really the towering figure in the history of A-State Band program. In 1954, Mr. Donald R. Minks became the director of bands, and he is without question the most important band director in the history of the A-State bands. He was our director of bands for 28 years at Arkansas State. He's the longest serving director of bands at Arkansas State. Many of the programs that we have today are a direct legacy of Mr. Minks. He is the one, as an example, in 1961, when JFK was inaugurated, the A-State Marching Band was a member of the inaugural parade for JFK, and that happened because of Mr. Minks. The scholarship program that we have today for all students in the A-State Band program, that began under Mr. Minks's watch. His influence it's immeasurable. The number of students he had an opportunity to teach and inspire. To this day, Mr. Minks passed away in 1982 during the school year, and more than 30 years later, there's still alumni who were members of his groups that regularly talk to me about what a wonderful person he was, not just a teacher, but just a wonderful person that he was. And so any history of the A-State bands would be terribly incomplete without a huge nod and a huge recognition of the impact of Donald R. Minks. When he passed away in 1982, Tom O'Connor was the director. Then there was another series of directors, and I started in 2007. Over that time, for example, all those ensembles I mentioned during the first segment, those ensembles, all of those didn't exist throughout the entirety of the A-State band history. They've always had the marching band, but the other athletic bands have not been there. There was a time when there was only one concert band. Now we've grown to 3. So right now, the A-State band and the marching band is the largest it's ever been in the history of the university. And so there's no question Mr. Minks had a huge influence on providing what we have today. But I'm very proud in the sense that we've been able to take the foundation that he set, and we've been able to evolve it and in some cases expand it.
That is really wonderful that you all, for each band director that has come after him, that you all are just trying to leave even more of a legacy for the students that are entering into the program, or even if they're not studying music, they're not studying band, majoring in those areas, just being a part of the band. Hopefully they are absorbing the history, the legacy, and really taking to heart everything that went into putting all this together. So,
well, I remind the students that there have been almost 90 years of bands that came before the current group of students. And we believe strongly, like pregame, that's the tie that goes back. There's elements of that pregame show that go back to Mr. Minks and probably before him. So while we change things at halftime, and there's obviously been some other changes, but we honor our past and have elements that are the connective tissue that ties together our alumni and all the other previous iterations of the program.
Oh, wow. You're tuned into Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM, and I'm speaking with Dr. Tim Oliver, the Director of Bands at Arkansas State University. And I know that, he said 1954. Let's see, 50 years would have been 2004. You weren't here then.
Right.
Well, in another history-making point at some point, would you like to do a throwback, a flashback, how can I say, kind of do a recognition of
absolutely
1954?
Whether that's whatever the year might be, I think it would be an ideal opportunity to bring back previous directors and have the opportunity just to reconnect with alumni. Mr. Minks, I guess I said, passed away in 1982, but the other directors since Mr. Minks are all still alive. And so that would be an interesting opportunity to bring everyone back and to reconnect with those individuals. One thing that was really a nice thing in 2010, which was in October of 2010, as the university was having their last centennial celebration for the 100th anniversary of A-State, Tom O'Connor, who I mentioned previously, was the director of bands from 1982 to 1988. He was also a long-time member of our composition faculty. And as part of that celebration, he wrote a piece for not just the A-State bands, but for the A-State choirs. It was called The Architects of Fate. And it was premiered as part of the centennial celebration in October of 2010. And it was, I think, not just a terrific way to bring a lot of people together in a collaborative sort of way, it was also a nod back to previous generations.
Is there a video available of this?
There might be. I know. I certainly have audio recordings of that.
Okay. It'd be so wonderful to hear. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. To hear, and I'm sure it would be very humbling for the students in the program to hear all the hard work that went into that. I'm so sorry. Okay. I want to move forward just a little bit.
Okay.
I'm just really humbled just to hear the history of the band and how it has progressed over the years. And I do hope and pray that the students are taking something from the program and not just taking it for granted, even those that are not music majors. But let's talk about, we've got to give a shout out to the Arkansas State football team for winning their last, was it a bowl game they were just in, or was it a conference?
They just recently won their 5th conference championship in 6 years, which is, they are the only football team in the country at the Division I level that can say that.
How yes, go
yes, how yes.
So now you all are getting ready to go to a bowl game. So what is the name of the bowl game, and how big a part is the band playing, how are they prepping for it? Just give us a rundown.
Well, it's one of those types of things that once the team got to 6 wins a couple weeks ago, we kind of anticipated that something would be happening.
Okay.
The Sun Belt Conference has 5 bowl tie-ins, and there are some circumstances where they might not go to one of those 5 bowls, but you can pretty much count on if the team is eligible that they're most likely going to go to one of those 5 bowls, 2 of which we've already been to. And so we weren't really sure where we were going to go. And you hear on social media, well, it's this bowl or that bowl, this bowl, that bowl, etc. Well, on Sunday afternoon, it was starting to become very obvious that it was looking like Orlando. And then the official announcement was made that we would be Arkansas State University would be a participant in this year's Cure Bowl in Orlando, Florida. And one of the things I'm extremely thankful for is that there are other universities where there's a question about whether they will send the band to a bowl game.
Okay.
At Arkansas State University, that's not a question. And there's just not even a consideration. I mean, we have such incredible support from not just our athletic department, but from our administrators, provost, chancellor, et cetera. There's just no question that the band would go. And so we have started those preparations, as you can imagine, getting 225 people to Florida and back in less than 2 weeks planning period.
Oh my God.
It's a little bit of a there's a lot going on, a lot of moving parts right now. You're talking about buses, because we're busing to Florida.
Oh my
You're
God.
talking about buses. You're talking about meal per diem. You're talking about all the events with the bowl game. The hotels. I mean, there's just a lot that goes on into this, and one of the, and I'm not going to lie, it's expensive. I mean, it costs money. When you're moving and housing and feeding that many people for 4 or 5 days, and then going halfway across the country doing it. It's an undertaking, but we're very, very fortunate and very blessed that we have such outstanding support from multiple levels at the university that we can make that happen and give our students that experience.
That is so wonderful. Wonderful. Again, you're tuned into Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM, and we're talking with Dr. Tim Oliver, Arkansas State University Director of Bands. And we have a phone call. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning.
Hi, Miss Farrell. How are you?
I'm fine. And hello to your guest, Dr. Tim.
Good morning. How are you?
All right. My name is Norma Farrell, and I go to mostly all of the games at ASU and have for years. I was in a all-black school and all-black band here in Jonesboro back in the early 60s. And I played a snare drum.
Okay.
So it always kind of brings back my school days, but I see the bands, it makes me feel good and feel proud. And I really do think ASU has a great band. They always look good, their uniforms, and I'm proud of them, and I'm glad that they'll be going to the bowl, and I know we'll be well represented when it comes down to the band because they do good, they look good, and if you need any help in going and you got an extra seat, let me know.
Well, I really, really appreciate that, and your comments mean a lot to us. We take it very seriously that and we tell the students, and this is not a spring break thing. I mean, this is a business trip. We're ambassadors of the university, and we're there to support the team and support our university, and so we really appreciate the fact that you recognize that, and thank you for that.
Yeah, I know we'll be proud of the team and the band, and y'all be careful and good luck.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Miss Norma.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Well, Miss Norma is a supporter of everything, anything Jonesboro related. She's out there. She's a community-oriented person. So we thank Miss Norma for all of the work that she does just for the city of Jonesboro. I did want to ask, I know this is kind of I don't know if it applies to or parents that come together, or community members that come together.
Right.
On the college level, do you have people that come together? Okay, like you were talking about, it's going to cost to feed all of these students.
Right.
People to put together care packages.
We don't have booster clubs like a junior high or high school might. What we have is we have our alumni that have always been very helpful, and certainly when we've made asks or requests of the alumni, they've certainly been very willing and gracious with their support. That's talking about what I said in the first segment. One of the major differences, in addition to the geography of being a high school band director versus a college band director, is as a high school band director and junior high band director, you deal with parents a lot as far as communication and just keeping them apprised of what's happening with their child. Because we're dealing, with young adults and people who are 18 and older, and almost always is the case. We don't deal with parents very often. And when we deal with parents, it's typically you see them at a ball game, you see them at a concert. It's you shake their hand type of thing, and so we don't have the same sort of relationship, and that's neither good nor bad. It's just one of the differences between being a high school teacher and a college professor.
Okay, alrighty. So Well, if anyone's out there listening, you want to put together some care packages for the band students, I'm sure they can use a bunch of personal care items, some snacks for the road.
It's going to be a long bus ride to Orlando, that's for sure.
Okay, so they need snacks, non-perishables. You know how teenagers are. They need batteries and portable chargers for their multitude of devices.
Well, the nice thing about this is this is our 6th consecutive bowl game. And A-State's only been to 7 bowl games since they've been playing at the Division I level, and 6 of those 7 have occurred, in the last obviously 6 years. And so many of our students have gone to a bowl game.
Okay.
Not all of them, but many of them have, and so they know what to expect.
Okay.
They understand what's involved. They understand that. This is, as I mentioned to the caller, this is an opportunity to be an ambassador of the university, and they understand this is a business trip. This is not, spring break light or something.
Okay.
and as a result, they plan, they prepare. It's not to get into this necessarily, but playing an instrument can be a physical activity, and when you're talking about marching and the exertion that can go with that sometimes, and they have to plan accordingly.
And I want to ask you, definitely want to get into that. What is the preparation training like? Just getting them physically and mentally ready for a big game like this.
Well, one of the things, as I said, our marching band director, Dr. Polly Middleton, does, which she's outstanding. It's her first year at A-State, and she's outstanding as our director of athletic bands, is that she has, on a daily basis, a warm-up routine that is not just what you would consider a musical warm-up, but also a physical warm-up, where there's stretching and breathing exercises, which you might think, well, why do they need breathing exercises? Well, breathing, air is the fuel for these instruments. And so learning how to be efficient with your air, learning how to take in both quantity and quality of air such that you can produce the best sounds, that takes a little bit of time and a little bit of training. And so that's something that we incorporate into our daily rehearsals. As far as, the drills and the marching and maneuvering, that type of thing, we actually are very proud of the fact that we have a different presentation for every home game. And it's amazing, going back to the differences between high school and college. One of the differences is that the pace at which we move at the college level is much, much faster. And again, that's neither good nor bad. It's just we can move a lot faster. And so as a result, we can give them a lot of new material, and they are able to execute that in a much shorter time frame. So for the bowl game, we're actually going to take one of the shows that we performed in October, which was very popular, seemed to be very popular with fans as well as the students. It was our Blues Brothers show. And we'll take that on the road to Orlando. And that, the other thing I have to consider is with bowl games, the pregame and halftime time that you're given is usually a little bit less than what it is at a normal home game, because both bands get pregame time, both bands get halftime time, plus there's the sponsors and all of the other activities that go on with a bowl game. So we'll certainly that was a consideration as far as for choosing that show. So they already have that show. It's a matter of now getting it back up to speed and just getting it back under their fingers and back under their feet, and they're going to be fine at that.
Alrighty, so you're listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. We're going to get ready to take another quick break. This conversation has really been going well. I'm just like in awe over here. Over here, Dr. Tim Oliver has really been educating me on a lot of things that I had no clue about. And I hope that you out there listening are enjoying the conversation as well. And, if you're considering studying music, or if you're in the department already, go talk to Dr. Tim and the other staff members, and, maybe they can give you some more direction. When we come back from break, I do want to talk a little bit about composing music. We won't have as much time in the last segment, but kind of give some highlights on the things the students have done in your tenure since you've been there.
All right.
So please join us back on Community Conversations, and we'll be right back after this quick break.
You're listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. We'll be right back.
We're back with Money Matters. I'm Alfred Edmond Jr. Today we're talking about the financial hoarder. Hoarding is rooted in fear and anxiety, the need to hold on. It's a mindset of poverty, not abundance. Unfortunately, bad economic times, such as our most recent Great Recession, can trigger or exacerbate a hoarder mentality. As a result, financial hoarders may sacrifice their future on the altar of today, keeping all of their money in a low-interest savings account instead of diversifying into investments with higher interest earning potential, or failing to invest for long-term goals such as retirement. Buying cheap goods of low quality can actually be less cost-effective than paying more for higher quality that will last. Hoarding resources is not a substitute for smart money management. I'm Alfred Edmond Jr. for Money Matters, a product of American Urban Radio Networks.
Money Matters is made possible by the Jonesboro Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, a nonprofit organization dedicated to uncompromising commitment to communities, service, leadership, empowerment. www.jonesboroalumnidst.org.
Support for KLEK is brought to you by
Tax time is here at Car Today, the original buy here, pay here dealer. New Car Today General Manager Sean Corns.
With new inventory available daily, whatever you're looking for, we've got it.
Located on Stadium Boulevard just south of the 63 bypass, tax time is the time to drive at Car Today. Car Today.
Experience the joy with Bishop Adrian R. Rogers of Fullness of Joy Church, 3307 Ray Street, Jonesboro, Arkansas, 72401.
From the KLEK Community Calendar, there will be a free community group workout every Tuesday and Thursday from 6:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. at the Allen Park Community Center on Ray Street. More information is available via Arlesia Baker at 870-275-5173.
Did you know KLEK has a brand new streaming app? That's right, you can listen to KLEK 102.5 FM anywhere in the world. The app is available for all Android phones and tablets, as well as iPhones and iPads. Just search your app store for KLEK and download the KLEK app for free today, and don't miss a beat of the education, entertainment, and empowerment on KLEK 102.5 FM.
And now back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM.
All right, welcome back to the last leg of the show. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I hope that you have been enjoying Dr. Tim Oliver as much as I have today. He is the Arkansas State University Director of Bands. And in the first part, we talked about all the different types of bands. The second half, we talked about the bowl game coming up and some other, and the history of the band, which is amazing. And so now, without wasting any more time, I want to give Dr. Tim the opportunity to talk about some success stories, some students he's met, and then talk about some advice you would give students that come to you say, I want to major in music or bands or whatever. So
okay.
I'm just going to let you have the floor.
All right. Well, we're very, very proud of our students at Arkansas State who have been members of the A-State Band Program. The largest single major within our band program are music majors. Okay. And within that, one of the things that I think our university has historically done extremely well is prepare students to be educators. Okay. And if you look at our current enrollment within the Department of Music, instrumental music education right now is the largest number of majors that we have in our department. As an example, last spring we graduated 17 people from our instrumental music education program. One of them decided to go in a different career. 2 of them decided to go to a major conservatory and work on their graduate programs, or their graduate degrees. The other 14 all had teaching jobs before the middle of June.
Wonderful.
And so we're very, very proud of our program in that regard. You know, I think about a couple of students in particular. There was a young woman who was originally from Blytheville who came over to our program, and I'll be honest with you, I wasn't sure she was going to make it at first. You know, I mean, she just just wasn't sure.
Okay.
And she got into this environment, and everything just clicked, and she became one of the very best students we've ever had, and incredibly curious, just insatiable as far as knowledge and listening and wanting to learn. Really became one of our outstanding musicians in our flute studio. She's now a teacher over at Wynn, and just a great success story. There's another individual from Tennessee. He's another African American student who came to us and had some challenges in his family background, but just a wonderfully engaging young man, just a natural leader, just exuded confidence. Became our drum major with the Sound of the Natural State. And again, outstanding trumpet player. He's now teaching over at Germantown Middle School. Wow. And so, and I could go on and on about various student success stories, but those are just two. We've had students in the non-music students. I know of at least 3 doctors that have come out of the A-State band program.
Oh my goodness.
I know of 2 lawyers. I know of somebody who is working in the computer industry. Again, I could go on with that too. So it's just really, I find it very satisfying to know that we've had such an impact, not just on our music students, but our non-music students as well, who've come through the A-State band programs and are now following their dreams and following their careers. I get this question a lot as far as how do I become involved? Well, we're very proud of the fact that we offer a band scholarship to students that are members of the A-State band program. And our band scholarship program is one of the best in the Mid-South, probably one of the best in the nation. It's just a matter of contacting me or any one of our band faculty or any one of our applied studio faculty, just letting us know that you're interested. The audition process is pretty painless.
Okay.
It's essentially performing material that you've already prepared. Frequently, many of the high school students are also auditioning for the all-region and all-state ensembles. That material is very often good material to use for these types of auditions.
Okay.
The other thing I would say as we close our segment here is that a lot of students wait, and this isn't just band students, this is students in general. A lot of students wait too late to get on task to applying for college. And there are deadlines in place that are hard deadlines as far as applying for college and also being considered for the full range of academic scholarships. And there are students every year who have wonderful ACT scores that because they waited too long, they're not eligible for academic scholarships. So December 1st, I always tell people December 1st, and if you haven't applied and had all your business taken care of from an admission standpoint by Thanksgiving, you need to definitely get that taken care of.
Okay, so I hope all of you parents out there, I know the students are in school, but if there are any parents, friends, parents, educators, anybody listening, please pass the word on. Okay, they've already missed this December 1st deadline, but for those that are juniors in high school, next December 1st when they're seniors, that's the bottom line. Thanksgiving, have everything in by Thanksgiving. That gives you, enough time. So we don't want to miss out on these wonderful opportunities that Arkansas State has to offer, all the different scholarships. And there is a tab, I'm sorry, I can't tell you directly where to look for it, but if you look under maybe admissions or scholarships.
There is web pages for the admissions area and scholarships as well, so it'll be very easy to find.
And it lists all of the different either private or public scholarships that are available. Do not miss out on those. People are trying to give away money. You don't want to miss out on that. Before we close, any advice to students that are, or anyone that's non-traditional student that maybe wants to take up a few music classes? Any advice?
Just get involved. If one of the things that we're very proud of in our program is that we have a diversity of ensembles and a diversity of individuals. And if you want to become involved, let us know and we'll try to make it happen.
Alrighty. So thank you so much, Dr. Tim Oliver, for joining us today. I have truly enjoyed our conversation. I hope that someone else out there has truly enjoyed it. And I hope that you're inspired to get more involved or just pay more attention to the music department and all the work they put into bringing you so much wonderful music. So please don't forget to join us tomorrow. We will have the Chief of Police, Rick Elliott. I'm sorry, I had a brain. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. My brain's went blank. Chief Rick Elliott from the Jonesboro Police Department will view our special guest tomorrow. Hopefully he'll bring some other members of the department in from the SWAT team or something. We won't have the dog again. He was a little too hyper last time. But Dr. Tim, I thank you so much. And I want to say thank you to our helping us get guests on the show, and I look forward to more and more. Don't forget to talk to your wife from the honors department, the honors college.
Will do. Thank you.
All right, so everyone have a very blessed day. Try to stay dry and warm.
Thank you for listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM.